guys doing? Good. How are you guys? Sunny outside, everybody's smiling. I think it's good.
I haven't seen the sun since.
Yeah, they lock you up down here in the basement, don't they? No windows, anything. Yeah. Well, we sure appreciate you coming out today. This is, it's an exciting day for us. So I'm Senator Mark Johnson, Senate Republican leader. We have, since early on this session, talked about the priorities of Minnesotans. And so one of those priorities is getting done a bonding bill to invest in our communities going forward in this state. Wastewater, drinking water, roads and bridges. It's very, very important to Minnesotans. Something else that's very important to Minnesotans that we saw over and over again in our campaigns and in town halls is Social Security relief. Getting that surplus back to Minnesotans through tax relief. It's $17.5 billion that Minnesotans have been overtaxed. One of the best ways of giving that back is through tax relief, and we are committed to doing that. So from the very beginning of this session, we've made that a priority. About a month and a half ago, Senator Housley and myself were at the front of the chamber reiterating our caucus position that in order to get a bonding bill done, we want to see tax relief with that. Now, we want to see both of those happen. About 3 weeks ago, we had a formal press conference where we said the same thing. And the bonding bill came up and it was voted down because it came as a standalone without any sort of commitment to tax relief for Minnesotans, which we are committed to making sure happens. If you remember on the floor last week, the Senate Democrats stood up and one of the comments that was made was, because the bonding bill was voted down, we can't see tax relief for Minnesotans. We came back then this week with the reason why we're having this press conference is with an offer that says, I think we're on the same page. We want tax relief. It sounds like Senate Democrats want tax relief as well. So what we're proposing is that we take that $2.3 billion that Senate Democrats and the House and the governor have reserved for an all-cash bonding bill. We said, okay, what we could do with that then is turn part of that into a GO bond, that's a general obligation bond, free up cash that would give continuing tax relief to Minnesotans through Social Security tax relief. We want to see a commitment that there would be no taxes raised on Minnesotans. What we'd also do is that would free up money for long-term care facilities. So we'd put that in Human Service Committee, their target. So long-term care and nursing home care that people have been crying out for. This is a shared priority that we think Democrats and Minnesotans can get behind. We'd also put money towards the aid committee. There's a number of important projects within that as well that we're hoping to fund going forward. So this really is a win-win bill. This is a good faith attempt to ensure that we can continue our investment in Minnesota through our capital investment, but also give Minnesotans their tax relief. To go into further detail, I'd like to turn it over to Senator Housley to talk a little bit about the bonding aspect of this as well. So, Senator Housley.
Thank you, Senator Johnson. Senator Karin Housley, the lead on the Capital Investment Committee. Republicans have always said that we would support a bonding bill. We've been diligently listening to our constituents about that need. That's what's so great about this win-win proposal. It's more money for our roads and bridges. I just went out to lunch and drove back here, and I can't count how many potholes I hit right in downtown St. Paul. We need more money for roads and bridges, and Republicans want to get that done. The bonding bill is by design requiring cooperation across the legislature, even with the minority party, and we are here ready to work together. This is the one bill that we have a say in, and we have some, we can come to the table, and we're here, we're at the table, we want to work together, we want to get a bonding bill passed and get that done for the people of Minnesota. We were consistent with Senator Sandy Pappas and Senator Dietzick that we needed to see investments in Minnesota. Minnesotans who created this surplus want that money back, and we want to get them a bonding bill, but we also want to get the tax relief. And I will turn it over to Senator Eric Pratt to talk about the budget.
Hi, I'm Senator Eric Pratt from Senate District 54.
you know, our focus here today is talk about a budget that works for the Minnesota Senate. As I've talked to my colleagues, sure, there are things that we would do different if we were in charge, but these are some really small changes that are a good step towards working together and putting Minnesotans first. The proposal here balances the needs that are severely missed in the all-Democratic agreement that was put out last week. We aren't here, and I appreciate, you know, as I've talked to all my colleagues in the Senate Republicans aren't here to just sit in our chairs and vote no. We really do want to work and try to pull this thing together so that we can come to a bipartisan agreement. As Senator Housley said, we have some tremendous needs and infrastructure in the state, both in the metro and greater Minnesota and in the suburbs. And this, I think, is a really good step towards moving us to that direction. One where we can start to work together and do what's best for all Minnesotans. Thanks.
I'm State Senator Bill Weber. I am the Republican lead on the Senate Tax Committee. I represent Senate District 21 in the southwest corner of Minnesota. We put together a couple weeks ago and presented to you our Republican tax plan together with our colleagues in the House. Today that we are talking specifically about one portion of that plan, and that is to remove state income tax on Social Security benefits. The reality of it is many of our Democrat colleagues also campaigned on that issue. They went across their district and said, if you elect us, we will provide you tax-free Social Security benefits. And immediately after the election, that point started to be walked back by the governor and by the leaders of both parties, or both bodies. And we're here today to say this is still important to us. It's important to the people of Minnesota, and we have offered, or made an offer that you know, we can have a bonding bill and we can have tax relief for Minnesotans. And as well as that, we can start to stem the tide of closing nursing homes. We can meet the needs of our agricultural industry. We have, with this kind of a surplus, plenty of money to do that. And so I am here to represent the Tax Committee and the Republican tax position, and thank you for being here today.
One other thing I'd like to say too is we also appreciate the situation over with the Senate DFL leadership, with Senator Dietzich being out. They've been very cooperative and engaging us on this as well. So I'm really hoping that this is a sign that things, we can come to an agreement going forward too. With that, open to any questions that you may have.
As part of your tax target, is that exclusively getting rid of the Social Security tax, or is there more that you would plan to give back to taxpayers in that target?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. I think this is the opportunity where we saw an overlap here, where there was a vote of 47 on the floor, the Senate floor the other day with Senate File 15 you saw. So there's an appetite there. There's always broader negotiation that we can have, but this is something we saw there was a lot of common movement towards, so we wanted to make sure that we capture that within this. So thank you.
Just to clarify though, the $3 billion, is that just the Social Security elimination, or is there more to that?
There's certainly, that doesn't encompass, that's more than just the Social Security. So that leaves room for their priorities as well, and hopefully more tax relief for Minnesotans.
Is $3 billion on the low side? I mean, I thought we'd been.
Oh, absolutely. We could put way more, no.
I know you could.
But here.
Based on what you proposed already.
Right. So this is just, we're dealing with the bonding bill and trying to find a path forward with that, with the tax priorities that we have as well. I'm hoping that more will come. But for right now, this is what we're looking at, trying to arrange something that we can find a pathway for that both Senate Democrats have been interested in and Senate Republicans
So this
are.
is just what you would package with the bonding proposal.
Precisely.
There may be other ideas, because I think that the D's have talked about, Walz has talked about more than $3 billion if
Right.
you count checks.
Right.
Yet the target was only $3 billion, which I thought was kind of on the low side.
right?
So you're not accepting their target, you think there should be more, but
This isn't a discussion about targets or anything like that. This is simply, how do we get a bonding bill done? And I feel like there's a path forward based on the priorities that the Democrats and Senate Democrats said last week on the floor. I think there's an opportunity here to move forward.
So in other words, this is just kind of taking the budget targets that they put forward and saying, hey, this is how we can make this work with what we want as well.
Yes, we're not commenting necessarily on the budget targets on this, but we just see that there's an opportunity here based on the priorities that they've made. They've reserved that cash on the bottom line for the all-cash bonding bill. So how can we use that money to get this thing done?
To pass a bonding bill, are you hoping to have all these provisions met? Like, do you need all of these met here on the paper in order to support a bonding bill?
Sure. So when you're looking at the criteria that you're talking about, it's the full elimination of Social Security tax. And then we cannot have additional taxes raised within that, right? So, I mean, those clearly are two conditions that we need to have made. The others that we've added there is long-term care facility, nursing home, the egg. I mean, we can talk about that, but this is our proposal, and we're very thankful that they were willing to engage on this and talk a little bit about it. I've had a meeting with Senator Frantz, and so very appreciative of that and understand it'll take them some time to digest. But I think these are some real high priorities to get this done.
Targets themselves aside, how do you guys feel about having like joint targets this early on in the session?
It's unique, so I don't know if any of you have ever seen this before either, and Senator Pratt, you can talk about this if you'd like as well, but the fact that the governor is now engaging on the legislative targets, that concerns me a great deal. Because these supposed to be legislative targets. The fact the House and the Senate are doing joint targets should be a concern enough. This is a Senate body. We control what comes into our Senate body, and we can set our own priorities. So now that the governor has an influence on what our legislation is going to look like, our targets are going to look like early on in the process like this, I don't know if that's ever been done before, and I worry about our independence as a constitutional body when they also engage in that. But did you want to?
No, I think you covered it well.
So go ahead and talk about targets, though. You had a few things to say last week.
Sure.
Spend it all. It's
You know, at this
if you
point-
were a majority leader, my guess is your signature would not have been at the bottom of a piece of paper that looked like that.
We're really just focusing on the bonding bill and the tax relief that we're trying to give. But I will say that, yes, I think you're safe to say that piece on there.
You were worried about scaring them away if you beat up on them here?
We're trying to have a path forward here, so we want to make sure that we just focus on what's in front of us here.
So the Human Services Omnibus Bill, it looks like that is about 200 million more than what the Democrats released in their targets. So is that long-term care? Is that the 200 million for long-term care then?
Yeah, so it actually should be, it's about 500 million at the end of the day, so is where that ends up. And that's been a priority for that committee, is long-term care, nursing home facilities. And that's where we certainly foresee that money going is in that direction. I mean,
500 million.
yeah, please state this.
Yep, it's 230 and then 270, and it goes for long-term care and nursing homes. It's something that we've heard about for years, and we're in a real crisis right now, and the governor and the Democrats aren't doing anything about it. So this is what we are hearing from all of our constituents, and especially me, the former chair of the Aging and the Long-Term Care Committee. This is number one, that we really need to help our nursing homes and our long-term care facilities. So this is our attempt. So hopefully the governor and the Democrats will take a look at this and come to the table to work with us.
Going back to the bonding bill, have there been productive conversations with the DFL caucus about it since the Senate floor vote?
No. No, currently, you've probably seen capital investment, we are just hearing 40-plus bills, Democrat bills, every single committee hearing, 45 tomorrow. Haven't seen Thursday's agenda yet. It's really unfortunate because they're leaving out half of the state. We have some really good Republican bills that we'd like to have heard also, but Senator Pappas is just hearing Democrat bills. So we're hoping with this proposal that they want to work together with us and get that bonding bill done, because believe me, Senate Republicans really do.
Senator, I thought I don't have that sheet with me, but I thought the human services target was $1 billion. Was that right? And the chair was not exactly happy with that target, the DFL chair.
Just going to take a quick look here. Right, so they had proposed $1 billion. The DFL agreement was $1.3 billion and $1.5 billion, and then we're kicking that up to about 1.8 in the first year, and then an extra $230 million in the second year.
Because the number right here on long-term care nursing home was $1 billion all by itself. That's the number the industry's been using, that they think the need is. Does that sound right?
Well, I mean, I can tell you, I've talked to my long-term care facilities, and quite honestly, we're not covering the costs that need to be covered, as well as we've got personal care attendants that are being underpaid, and they're having a hard time recruiting for some of our most needy Minnesotans. So this is, it's basically, I'm sorry, I misquoted, $1.5 billion the first biennia, and $1.8 billion the second biennia gets us to the extra $500 million.
Do you worry at all that you missed your sort of best shot on the bonding bill, and now it might just become, as you mentioned, a lot of DFL priority projects that get passed?
Well, traditionally, the bonding bill is one of the last bills that passes our body and the House. And so to have it come up so early in March, before our projects, even the DFL projects, are incorporated, we find the priorities of our caucuses within that. It was a little bit of disappointment to us to see that happen. And we broadcast very early that here's the conditions that need to be met. Now, if the Democrats want to make sure that it's a highly partisan bill and pass that off with only Democrat votes and Democrat projects in it, that'd be really a disappointment to half of the state of Minnesota. Minnesotans all over the state have wastewater, drinking water, infrastructure needs, and to be that petty, I would be surprised. I give them more credit. I hope that this is something that we can get together and have a conversation going forward.
Something you guys hashed out already, but did you guys have any conversations with the House GOP about why enough of them voted that through, and then the Senate was pretty unified on their stance on it?
Sure, and we're two separate institutions, and so they've got caucus priorities. We certainly have caucus priorities, and so that's something that they saw fit to do, and we just see a different opportunity here.
Senator, do you think this should be early? I mean, is your suggestion that these be done soon and not end of session, that you wrap these pieces up quickly and then move on?
That's a great point. So I think this would be fantastic if we could get the tax relief for Minnesotans done early and make sure that this bonding bill is put together and passed so that they can go out for bids if they've got facilities that they want to make sure that they can get done this year, to lock in that money to make sure it's there for when the bills come due. I would be very open. I think our caucus is very open to that. So if something happens, we'd be very much ready to go.
It looks like your proposed agriculture omnibus bill is also higher than what DFL proposed. Do you know what that would go towards?
Well, obviously, that will be up to the Ag Committee Chair as to what those extra funds would go into. I do know that Senator Putnam, the Ag Chair, has a green fertilizer bill that he would like money for, and which I'm a co-author on that bill. That's an important element for the Ag community, because the Ag community is always striving to find more environmental friendly avenues to go down. And so that would be there. I think that in recent years, the governor has underfunded our biofuels incentive programs, and could be money used there. And there are a variety of programs within the Department of Ag that are popular and that do need additional funding.
Senator Johnson, did Senator Frentz seem open to this negotiation? You said you met with him already.
Yeah, we've had a conversation, actually even earlier today, we talked about this as well. And so, given the situation over there with Senator Dietzick, still out, of course, it'll take a little bit more time for them to decipher this and figure out what their path forward would be. But yes, we have met, and so they are aware of it, and we had a good conversation. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you coming out.